Young people are not lazy. Let me explain. For years, we've been hearing that millennials and Gen Zs just don't want to work. They are lazy. They have no moral compass. They are entitled, glued to their phones, and unwilling to put in the effort that older generations did. But what if that's not the truth at all? What if the real problem isn't motivation, but reward itself? Because here's the reality. You can work full-time in America today, and the majority of Europe and the West, and still cannot afford rent in most cities. Buying a house? That's a dream out of reach for millions. And starting a family on one income? Forget it. That was possible decades ago, but now it's almost unheard of. So when older generations say, just work hard and you'll get somewhere, young people look around and ask, where exactly? This isn't about laziness, it's about a generation that has nothing to gain from playing by the old rules and are being shamed for it. This is what young people don't want to work really means. Back in the 1950s, 60s, and even into the 70s, the idea of the American dream was pretty straightforward. You worked a normal job, you bought a modest house, maybe had a car or two, and you could raise a family on a single income. For example, in 1970, the average price of a home in the United States was around $24,000. For a new car, $3,000 to $5,000, and the average yearly income was about $9,000. That means a house costs just 2 to 3 times a worker's yearly salary. Fast forward to today, and the average home costs nearly $500,000. A new car, $47,000 on average. Meanwhile, the average income hovers around $60,000 to $70,000. In other words, houses now cost 7 to 10 times more than the average salary. And it's not just housing. The cost of college tuition has skyrocketed. Healthcare is more expensive. Rent eats up a massive part of people's paychecks, and even basic groceries feel like a luxury. At the same time, wages haven't kept up. For decades, productivity in America has gone up, but the money workers take home has stayed almost flat. This creates a massive disconnect. Older generations could realistically expect that a steady 9-to-5 job would lead to stability, independence, and eventually home ownership. But for young people today, working full-time often just means barely scraping by, with little chance of moving forward. So when people say nobody wants to work anymore, what they really mean is nobody wants to work hard for rewards that no longer exist. But here's the best part. Not only do young people have fewer opportunities than previous generations, they're also being blamed for it. How many times have we heard, kids today are just lazy. Back in my day, we worked hard and made it happen. LOL, he still lives in his mom's basement. If you put those games down for a change, then you might get somewhere. Well, maybe it was hard back then. Maybe buying a house was difficult. But know what else it was? It was realistic. It was realistic to buy a house and a new car and pay tuition and support an entire family. All that without drowning in debt. Food and everyday expenses took up a much smaller chunk of a paycheck. So when older generations compare their experience to today, they're ignoring how much the economy has changed. It's like comparing a marathon to a sprint, and then accusing the sprinter of being lazy because they can't run 20 miles. This constant shaming doesn't just create resentment, it makes young people feel like failures for not reaching milestones that are, in reality, almost impossible to reach. And instead of addressing the real issues, like wage stagnation, housing prices, or inflation, society keeps pointing the finger at the people who are struggling the most. And from that perspective, young people playing games, watching shows, and being on the phone all the time makes much more sense. But the real danger lies beneath all this. You see, this isn't just a problem for young people. If kept ignored, the consequences will hit everyone. Remember pensions? Retirement systems depend on younger workers paying into them. But if young people are working fewer jobs, earning less money, or dropping out of the workforce entirely, that puts the entire system at risk. Older generations who expect to retire comfortably may find that safety net collapsing. Then there's the workforce itself. Every year, millions of older Americans retire, but fewer young people are stepping in to replace them. That means critical industries are facing labor shortages, not because people are lazy, but because the jobs don't pay enough to survive on. And what about the future of families? The cost of housing, education, and healthcare is making many young couples think twice about having children. Birth rates are already declining. If this trend continues, it's not just an economic issue, it's a demographic crisis. Entire nations could face population decline, which threatens long-term stability for everyone. Plus, there will be an epidemic of lonely, miserable, depressed people. On top of that, when people feel hopeless, when they see no path to independence or a good life, they often turn to unhealthy escapes. Addiction, depression, and suicide rates are climbing, especially among young men. And when people are pushed too far, they will start doing unreasonable things. We can already see the crime rate spiking heavily. These aren't signs of laziness. They're signs of a generation that feels like it has no future. Now, here's the catch. It's not that nobody can succeed today. Some people do. But look at what it actually takes. To buy a home, build wealth, or afford a decent lifestyle, most people can't just work a normal 9 to 5 anymore. They have to hustle on the side, start businesses, invest early, or work insane hours just to get ahead. And yes, there are always stories of the ultra successful, the tech founders, the social media stars, the people who turn side hustles into millions. But that level of ambition and nonstop grinding isn't realistic for the majority of people. Most people don't want to become billionaires. They don't want to work 50+ hours a week. They just want a stable, normal life. A modest house, a family, some free time, and enough money to not constantly worry about bills. That's it. But the tragic part is that normal life has now become a luxury. What used to be the baseline is now treated like a privilege, reserved only for the extremely ambitious, the extremely lucky, or those born into wealth. So, young people may or may not be lazy, but one thing's certain, they're living in a system that offers them little to gain for all the work they have to do. The rules have changed, but the expectations haven't. And until that gap is addressed, young people will keep sinking into hopelessness and economic traps full of debt and long working hours. And not just them, the whole society will sink with them, because who is going to work? Who is going to pay pensions? No one. If you like this video, don't forget to like and subscribe so more videos like this will find you.